So last week we had Dr. Alex Connor.
We did. The lovely Dr. Alex
He
Connor.
was so nice, wasn't he? Like, really nice. Not sure what James says about him.
No, the pair of them are ridiculous. They're both so nice.
Yeah.
And it was just such a special episode because it really, we felt so comfortable that obviously we did with James as well, but he was our first person that we interviewed, so it was a bit different.
We were super nervous that first time.
Yeah, but speaking to Alex, it just really put us at ease so much that I then divulged a lot more than I meant to. And then from that, he gave me the confidence to be like, well, now I'm allowed to have an opinion.
Absolutely.
I'm allowed to say what I think, especially with the constant disclaimers that we don't know what we're talking about. It is just an opinion.
Yeah, and the feedback we've got from everyone, and it's been really helpful to us, and it's given us a bit more confidence to use our voices and speak out about the things that we have opinions and voices on, and because that's the point of the podcast, is it's an exploration of our personal experiences. So we form our opinions based on our experiences. So it's not like I'm looking over there and forming some opinion about something I know nothing about. I'm talking about what I see from my lived experience. Yeah, opinions are changeable.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Just because we're maybe not educated as much in a certain area doesn't mean to say that what we're saying is right or wrong. It's just an
perhaps
opinion.
Not fully formed, and it could grow with time. And
us voicing our opinions gives the opportunity for people to help us and teach us and help us
the way,
help us learn. So there's nothing wrong with voicing our opinions. So we're going to get more opinionated.
I think that's it. And I think it's kind of like the realization is you can't really dip your toe into having a podcast, can you? Not that we have.
No.
Not that we have. I just haven't said anything that I thought might be controversial for fear of, the cancel culture that we lived in. But thankfully, we're not even big enough that anybody would care enough to cancel us. But you know what I mean? Just not wanting to put yourself out there for some, I don't know, horribleness.
Yeah. No, I get it. Obviously, I've said some choice words in previous episodes as well, and you do worry about putting aspects of yourself out there for people to scrutinise, because essentially that's what you're doing. If you divulge yourself and lay yourself bare, then you're opening up an opportunity for someone to say something mean about you or judge you or whatever. But what I've also found is it's so refreshing to be open and to be true and to say the things that you think and the things that you feel, and because people can listen and they can relate back, and it's helping other people. So if I know that if I'm helping people through the mistakes I've made or the choices I've made in the past, then that's so, I don't even know the word, it's just ace.
Yeah,
It
is ace. And that's truthfully, touch wood, all that we've had is positive feedback. People have told us that the worst we've had is that things have made them cry, but then they've gone on to say, but in a good way, because we relate. And that's it. We are all in, we're not doing this to get internet points or to get followers. We're doing this because we really care, and we really want change, and we really want to pull the community together. So many people are doing that. And what's lovely as well is that we've been so welcomed into the community by people who have been blazing the trail long before we've started doing what we're doing. And that's just so wonderful. But with Alex, one of the really resonating things that he spoke about was his alcoholism.
Yeah.
And that is what has inspired this episode.
I think it's both something that we've had our battles with.
Yeah.
Whether it's binge drinking, whether it's one-off occasional moments that we've had in our life, whether it's other people in our families that have had issues. Alcohol is a big part of the majority of people in this country, in the UK anyway, the binge drinking culture, all of that. Chuck ADHD in the mix on top of that, and you've got a recipe for disaster, really.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to speak about, our experiences.
Yeah.
And we'll throw in some facts and some other things along the way, and
share the polls.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for taking part in the polls. Should we dive straight into that?
Yeah, let's get going.
ADHDers females, ADHD AF, ADHDers females, the podcast.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dawn.
Hi, I'm Laura, and we
are
ADHD
AF.
AF. Seriously. We are two neurodivergent neighbours who moved to the same street at the same time, at the same age, with the same undiagnosed disability. What are the chances?
Since discovering the enormous impact ADHD has had on our lives and the horrifying numbers of missing undiagnosed females, it has become our mission to make some serious noise.
We want to use our voices to raise awareness, break the stigma, and share our experiences in the hope that they help others.
So join us for a chat, or as it's called up here in Aberdeen, a blether.
Trigger warning, we will be covering some really sensitive topics, so please do have a read of the description of each episode before listening.
It's important to note that we are not medical professionals. We're not therapists or coaches. We're not qualified to offer advice or support. What we will do is share our experiences alongside resources and information from professionals. We will talk over each other and we will go off topic and forget the point mid-sentence.
We are both assigned female at birth, which means that we can only speak from the experience of life as AFAB people. However, ADHD AF is an inclusive space. Whatever your gender, you are very welcome here.
Yes, you are.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF.
Okay, so we are going to get stuck in with the poll
Yes.
that we put out to everyone this week.
Yes, so thank you so much for answering. Loads of you did. Really appreciate it. So the first question was, do you drink alcohol? Often, sometimes, or never? So often was 31% of you, 22% of you said never, and 47% said sometimes. Dawn, what was your answer?
I think I was a sometimes person because although I drink, I don't drink it depends what how much you say often is.
Well, I would say often is weekly, yeah.
I mean, yeah, probably weekly, but then I can go weeks without. It just depends what I'm doing if I've got plans. So I think I said sometimes, but I'm kind of maybe flirting between.
I think you may be more of an often.
All right.
Like how many weeks have you gone without, and when was that?
I mean, I've especially in lockdown and stuff, I could go weeks. Like I'm not a big drinker at home on my own.
Yes.
Like that's one thing that I don't really do. So I only really drink to socialise.
Yeah.
So if I'm not socialising, I'm not drinking, essentially.
Yeah.
I probably drink more now being a student because I work in a restaurant part-time.
Yeah, you're out.
Yeah.
And you're around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it just depends. But it's a social thing for me for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
What about yourself?
Well, mine's really funny. And I actually think on reflection of these questions, there are like two different people here.
Yeah.
For me. And
That's what it
I
feels
was
like as
really,
well.
really I was surprised by the answers. As we go, you'll see. And it suddenly dawned on me that our main demographic of followers are our age.
Yeah.
And actually that makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'd have answered these questions 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
they would have been a completely different set of answers.
Yeah, very true.
So yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. So I would say I'm a sometimes drinker because I quite literally never drink at home unless we have people visiting, which isn't that often, to be honest, because we
Yeah.
live pretty far away. And so I would only drink when I go out. And to be honest, we don't really go out.
Yeah.
So the only things that we do is we go away to places and then we go out and then I'll drink solidly for a week because I'll be on holiday or I'll be going to something. And then obviously we have our Fitty Beach barbecues.
Yeah.
But that's when the weather's nice, which unfortunately isn't that often.
Yeah, that's very
So-
true. And I think coming out the back of lockdown as well, I think that makes things a lot different because I feel like my social life has changed a lot. I think I'm slowly getting back into that
Yeah.
social life again. But I think, yeah, I used to be out pretty much every single weekend pre-lockdown. When I was working Monday to Friday job, I was pretty much out every weekend, whereas I'm not at the moment, but I'm slowly kind of falling back into a
When
more often
when
thing.
I lived in Ibiza, I was out. Like, I mean, as standard.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm talking out at least 4 times a week. And and recovery drinking. So things like, and the places in which I work. So I worked in nightclubs.
Yeah.
Putting biodegradable glitter on people. So like, you know, I drank there, or I'd be trading at an event. I'd be working at a festival, or like have a pop-up at somewhere in Ibiza, and I would have a cocktail. And that's not binge drinking, but it's just bog standard drinking.
There's
daily.
a lot to be said about your environment.
Yeah.
When it comes to boozing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
I know when I've been working in bars, I was in bar management and stuff for a while. And when I was working in bars, I was drinking all the time.
All the time. Like quite literally all the time.
It's just what you did.
Yeah, 100%. And it's quite funny because obviously I'm going into one, but we did say we would as we went along.
Standard.
So like my life and that sort of party lifestyle that I lived for most of my adult life until very recently was like, it transcended everything, because then when I left Ibiza and I went to visit people, that was the category into which I fit. And I don't have a family of my own. So like I go back to Norfolk or to London to visit somebody, and do you think they're going to invite me around for dinner?
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to cook me a roast? Laura's back in town. We're going out. So I had no escape whatsoever, because my work was going out. Then I'd have my social life that was going out. Then I'd go home and I was going out. And there literally wasn't any part of my life that wasn't about going out.
Fun time Frankie's in town.
Yeah, literally. But years and years and years of my life. When you drink, do you get drunk? So only 22% said no. 37% said yes. And the majority said sometimes. And again, I think that that's our demographic rather than like an encapsulation of like ADHDers on the whole. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
So
what did you say?
Oh, I said yes.
Yeah.
When I drink, do you get drunk? But again, I think environmental factors play a part, as in who I'm drinking with, where I'm drinking, what I'm doing. But there's certain...
But would you be able to have a couple of drinks and stop?
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
So yeah.
Once I get going, the dopamine levels start to increase. I start to feel good, get that feel good feeling, and you just don't want it to stop.
Yeah. Feel good feelings, it's chemicals. I also think that part of it is being very, very easily led. Yes. And so I think that would be more my issue as well, is that someone will be, say we're in the pub and someone says, should we get one more in? Should we get one more in? There is at no point am I ever going to say no. Yeah. It's never going to happen. Oh, is that what you want to do? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course I will. Of course I will. What am I going to do? Say no? Go home? Of course I'm not.
And then you get beyond the point of, being able to have that conversation with yourself. Yeah. And what's the word? Level with yourself and be like, right, that's probably enough now. You get beyond that point, so it's just like, let's get the shots.
Yeah. And the thing is, so when you drink, do you get drunk? So for me, I mean, this follows on to another question. But for me personally, and I know I have read that this can be an ADHD trait, is that alcohol affects me more than it does I'm assuming neurotypical brains, not that was my realization at the time. So what I notice is that I am impaired by alcohol incredibly quickly. So, and that doesn't mean I'm a mess or a lightweight, because I will then have the staying power and I will continue for a very long time. But the point is that first little step into drunkenness, in inverted commas drunkenness, I don't mean blackout drunk, lying on the pavement drunkenness. I'm talking about being quite clearly impaired happens in an inch of wine for me. Yeah. And so that first drink, that first drink for me is a bit embarrassing, because I have to sit back and I look around me, because I'll notice it. I'll say something slightly outlandish. I'll be a bit braver, a bit bolshier, or say something silly. And then I'll be like, oh no, nobody else is that drunk yet. Wind your neck in. And then I'll sit back and let people drink a bit more. Well, I'm still drinking, but I'll just keep my mouth shut for about 3 drinks, because I know I'm much drunker than everyone else there.
It's funny because although I get drunk, I feel like I hold my alcohol quite well. And I think it's possibly a downfall for me as well, is that I'm never, or I say never, I'm very rarely the full about drunk. I'm
No.
very rarely the sleepy drunk.
No.
I'm very rarely.
We've got energy for days, Dawn.
I'm never sick.
Yeah. No, I'm never sick. I mean, I get hungover and I feel sick.
Oh yeah, the next day.
But no, I'm
it's a
never sick. I
different
mean,
story,
when I was younger, but no.
I just, once I get going, like a lot of people are saying, well, I feel sick now, that's probably a sign for me to stop. Or I feel tired, that's probably a sign for me to stop. Or, you know, I'm falling about, that's probably a sign for me to stop. I get none of those things.
No, me neither.
I get none of those things. And so I just keep going.
The only thing that I can sometimes get, if I have been drinking a lot, is I can sort of go to another place. And I know that like there's like blackout drunk, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about, because I've been running around talking to people and still myself and not blackout drunk.
Mm-hmm.
But the mess that I can get in is that it's like there's a complete disconnect in my brain and I'm just not there anymore. So it's not that like I'm screaming and shouting or flashing my knickers or doing anything ridiculous. It's just like my brain has actually shut down.
Yeah.
The lights are on, but nobody's home. But that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Why do you drink? So 37% said for fun, 27% said for escapism, and 36% said social lubricant.
I said for fun.
I'd say all of the above.
Well, yeah, I guess. I actually don't agree with the escapism thing. I don't think I've ever really drank to escape anything. I maybe escape my everything in general, I guess to a point. But yeah, you know how people say like I'm sad so I'll drink, or I'm angry so I'll drink, or anything like that. I've never turned to alcohol for any of those reasons. I've always drank, usually for fun.
Well, I mean, I have, but not in that terms. Not like, oh my God, I'm so sad, I need a drink past the gin. But I am going out and I am distracting myself to escape life.
Yeah.
So.
But no, I generally, if I'm feeling down, that's probably the time that I'll not go out.
Yeah.
As opposed to drink. I'm like, I'm not in the mood for going out because I drink to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm fun time Frankie.
Yeah.
When I drink, I am the life and soul.
Yeah.
Like I always have been. The only time that I've not been the life and soul and I've been in bad times is when I'm not okay emotionally.
Yeah.
And then I know I shouldn't have drank. And that's maybe been if I've been in, you know, a toxic relationship and then I've drank stupidly because of the situation. And stress, I've noticed that if I'm stressed and I drink, I get drunk really quickly, and that's when I get blackout drunk.
Well, then that's maybe it, because as you were talking then, I was just like, what's it like to be okay emotionally?
Yeah.
Like when I've never been that. So it's like, yeah, okay. No, I mean, like, I hear what you're saying, but like, no, I don't know that I've ever been okay emotionally.
Yeah. There's a couple of like key moments I can see in my life. One was when I was in a toxic relationship and I got really drunk and got really reckless and decided to cycle my bike and try and give a friend a backie on my bike. And it was we were capering. It was fun and games. But I fell, smashed my head open.
Oh, Jesus.
And this isn't that long ago. And I smashed my head open and I ended up at A&E because I had a huge egg on my head as a result. And I mean, laughing about it, but at the time I wasn't. In the past, Drunk Dawn would have been like, this is hilarious, like, what an idiot for getting myself into this. But because I was in a bad place emotionally, it was really shameful about that happening and whatnot. So that was a blackout, messy, drunk time. And it was because of the emotional distress that I was in before I was even drinking that day, and I just went for it hard.
Yes.
And then another time would have been years ago, again, like just because I was stressed with work.
Yeah.
And I was super, super stressed. I left work and I just went for it. And it wasn't because of escapism or anything like that. It was just because I'm having a drink, and once it started, I'm just like,
oh, thank God.
Oh my God, that's the stress gone.
Yeah.
So drink, and then blackout drunk, woke up with my work phoning me because I hadn't turned up, with a massive line down my forehead where it obviously went flying into a corner of a door.
Oh, no.
A door, something. I don't know what it was because I can't remember. I lost 3 hours. My mate went home at 12. I got home at 3 a.m. and I have no recollection of those 3 hours. I don't know where I was, who I was with, or anything. Yeah. And I just had this big red line down my forehead. And that was stress drinking. Yeah. And so I didn't do that on purpose to escape. I just had one, realised, oh, this feels nice, and I know it's taking the edge off. Yeah. And then that's what's got me in a mess.
Yeah.
And it's like that dopamine getting into you,
Yeah.
being like, pow,
Yeah.
here you go. Oh, this is good. This is feel good. Let's go for it.
Yeah, exactly
And
that.
then you get carried away.
So how often do you get drunk? So 62% said monthly, 25% said weekly, 10% said a couple of times a week, and 3% said daily.
Wow. So I guess I fall between the weekly and monthly, I'd say. Weekly, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it's just so different for me here. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that many people, and I don't really go out. So monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's like not how it's been.
Yeah.
Prior to lockdown. So do you seem to get drunk quicker than other people? So obviously I answered yes to that, with 60% backing me up. What did you
Yeah, I
say?
mean, no, not really. But I guess that's just because I drink quite a lot and I can handle my alcohol quite well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe I do feel it quicker than other people, but I guess I know a lot of people that are more notably, you can see it in them quite quickly. Whereas
Yes.
I don't think I display it that quickly, even though
Yeah.
I might feel like I've got a little head on or whatever.
You wouldn't say.
Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, for me, definitely. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I can feel it really
Yeah.
quickly. And I look around me and I'm like, oh God, drunk bird, shut your mouth. Drinking causes problems in my life. 41% said occasionally, 12% said often, and 47% said never. Well, that's really good, 47%.
Mm-hmm.
So mine would be occasionally,
Yeah, I think I
but
said the
it would
same.
have in the past been often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think occasionally for me, mainly the problems come afterwards, because it's not like I've caused huge problems for myself through drinking. Normally I just go out and I have a good time and it's fun, and I don't normally make huge mistakes. Definitely in my past when I was younger, you know, meeting guys, being promiscuous and impulsively getting together with guys for the wrong reasons, rather than being like, well, you've met a guy, he's really nice, why don't you swap a number, why don't you meet him again in the future, instead of, oh, you've met a guy, let's jump into bed with him and then maybe we can be together forever. It's not going to work like that. But in your ADHD brain, who's like impulsively like, dopamine, let's go, getting yourself into trouble. But I think for me now, drinking causes me problems in my life because of the hangovers.
Yeah.
And when I'm hungover, I am useless. So if I've made plans, I'll let friends down. I can let work down. It stops me being as productive. And I just, I end up letting myself down ultimately, because I'm not doing the things that I've committed to or want to do.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I've just been sitting here thinking about this. Like, there are sort of two answers to this again. So, like, on the one hand, drinking has caused me massive problems in my life. Like, it really, really has. When I was younger, serious detrimental decisions with massive consequences went down. But then it's funny to note now, like, the problem that it causes me in my life is it makes me feel very bad about myself.
Yeah.
And that causes me problems in my life, because it's literally, you know, I'll talk more about this later, but like coming back from Glasgow, I feel I've had the time of my life, but I feel bad about myself. And that really, really sucks, because I'm allowed to have a nice time. I'm allowed to go on holiday. I'm allowed to go to an amazing music festival and have a good time. And then I come back and it's just like, it's almost like I need the alcohol to get out of my brain to be able to feel positive about myself again, or something. I can't quite explain.
Depressant.
Yeah, it's
alcohol is a depressant.
Yeah.
And we all know what a hangover feels like and how rough we feel the next day and living in fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's only exaggerated when you have ADHD.
Yeah, but it's like, I think it comes down to as well, like, your value, like your self-worth.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is that now I'm a bit like, I've spent this whole year working really hard on myself and various projects, and then I had a break, a well-deserved break, and now I'm like feeling like I haven't achieved any of the things that I've achieved, and I'm right back down to where I was before or something. Like, it's awful. And like building yourself back up, like, so that is a problem.
Yeah.
Easily.
And that kind of leads me on slightly, is like, I like the idea of being able to go out and meet people and socialise. And I love nothing more than going into town and, you know, going for a couple of drinks and meeting new faces.
Yeah.
But because that ultimately leads to me getting absolutely drunk, spending too much money, I just don't do it that often. And so I'm kind of holding myself back in a way on a social aspect from meeting people and getting myself out there, because I can't just do a little bit. It's all or nothing.
And that is true for me and Big as well, is like things have to be worth the hangover.
Yes.
And that, so it's like, you know, we could be going out a lot more than we are, but it's just like we've got shit to do and can't deal with the mental breakdown, to be honest.
And the older you get, the worse the hangovers get. So you have to be prepared. Like, I have to think about what I'm doing the next day.
Yeah.
Like, really take that into consideration, because I know that getting drunk and spending a whole day drinking is going to affect what happens with what I'm doing the next day. So having
potentially longer.
Yeah.
Than a day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, not in terms of feeling rough, but like the mental.
It can take me at least 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
If I've had a heavy session.
Yeah.
The night or day before.
And that's why it's almost tempting to just never get off the horse.
Yeah.
Which is what I did for years. Was just like, why be hungover? Why feel shit when you could just be life and soul and just keep going? So 2017, I was full party mode, working in clubs, going out all the time, and I was drinking at home. The person I was with was, anyway. So I had this kind of feeling that like I wasn't quite good enough, and I needed some kind of crutch, I suppose.
Yeah.
So then, like, on the rare occasion that I stayed in, it would be a bottle of red a night.
Yeah.
So I got to this point where I was like, people were coming out, I was working, people were coming out on holiday, and it's always like, meet you in space, meet you here, meet you there, go to D10, come back to our villa, we're having a party. So if you know, a lot of people from the UK go over to Ibiza for at least one summer holiday, even if it's a long weekend. So, well, that's my entire life then. That's, you know, the entire summer season, 6 months, I'm either at work, partying, or entertaining people that are on holiday, and it just didn't stop.
Yeah.
And I had sort of just such bad anxiety. I mean, like I say, I was fine when I was out, which was most of the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, it really does have a knock-on effect. And I kind of said at the time, I was like, I need to stop drinking, and I can't. And it's funny because it wasn't about being an alcoholic. It was about the fact that I didn't really have any kind of identity outside of party girl.
Yeah.
And so there was no other life for me to slot into. There was nowhere else for me to be. And I couldn't say no to anybody because I'd feel bad if I didn't come out with them. And then once you're out, it's like, oh, I'm not going to drink today. Oh, go on, then I'll have one. And then you have a lovely old time. So there was just, I could not escape. So then I did a sober 6 months for a charity called NACOA. And that was really hard.
Yeah.
A full 6 months in Ibiza, completely stone cold sober, nothing.
Really difficult. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Really bloody difficult. But the charity is so amazing. It's for it's the National Association for Children of Alcoholics. I think I've got that right. And they're Bristol based, and they're amazing. And it's a 24-hour call centre, and it's for anybody who is a child of an alcoholic. So whether you are 3 or 100, you can call them at any point, and they give you support. And they were just so fantastic. Amazing. So yeah, I raised nearly $3,000, so it was worth it. But my God, that was hard. But I did look amazing. Like, my skin was better. I lost loads of weight. And then what I started to find out is that your whole body regenerates.
Yeah.
So like after 3 months, I had a new liver, like random things like that. So when I went to do my ADHD assessment and all of that, and they did my full body MOT. He was like, your liver is impeccable for somebody your age, which if you knew me 3-4 years ago, that's a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck? So I would actually say to anybody, do it. Just press pause because you will learn so much. I learned that I wasn't an alcoholic and I got really, really well. And I learned how it felt to not be hungover. Whereas I'd spent the previous best part of 20 years hungover.
Do you think it affected friendships? Do you think you found out who your friends were and who your party friends were?
Well, all of my friends are party friends. So no, but I have to say there is absolutely no effing way I could have done it if it wasn't raising money for the charity. And I don't mean for myself, I mean for my friends to understand. There was no way that they would have said, oh, go on, just have one. Go on. No way at all. So that is my advice to anybody. Pick a charity, fundraise for them. Nobody can fuck with you.
Yeah.
Because there's just no way. Because even with the best will in the world, I'd be like, well, you've been sober for a month. Why don't you just have one drink? Like, there's no way. And people wouldn't have understood it in any way, shape or form because it does make people feel bad about themselves. They'd have been like, oh, well, you're not drinking and that's weird and I'm not going to invite you and all of that stuff. Luckily, I didn't have it because I was just on this fundraising mission.
And I think the reason I ask is obviously I've not spent a season in a party place, but or any time in a party place really for any prolonged amount of time other than maybe a 2-week holiday.
Yeah.
And that's heavy enough. So I can't even begin to imagine where you're coming from. But I know that there's definitely friends that I've had in life who are party friends.
Yeah.
They're the people that if I want a night out, they'll be up for a night out.
Yeah.
But we don't really have much else to do with each other.
Yeah.
We just party together. And then you kind of, like, when you're not partying all the time, you kind of realise who your actual real friends are. And there might be some of your party friends that go on to becoming real friends, close friends, the ones that stick around beyond the partying, for sure. But there's definitely people that have been in my life and they've come in my life and it's only because of the partying.
I think, 100%. And I could totally see that at home. I think it's different in Ibiza because it's such a community.
Yeah.
And we're such a weird bunch.
Yeah.
That we are all party friends and we are all family.
Yeah.
And so it's all and everything. So it was such a different thing. And also you can't really get away from people on a tiny island. So no. But definitely at home, 100%, like it would be different. But really, like, and I did really want to share that today, is that if anybody does just want to have a little break and they cannot see, because I could not see and I would not have been able to, like, there are so many worthy causes. There are so many good alcohol causes. It doesn't even have to be for an alcohol cause. It can be for anything you like. And I know a lot of people do Dry January or Sober October or whatever. Go longer. I'm telling you, what I learned is there are different levels of sober.
Yeah.
You can be 1 week sober. You can be 2 weeks sober. You can be a month sober. Fuck that. You try 4 months sober. Like, that is reality.
Yeah.
And it's hard and it's challenging, but it's really interesting and it's really, really rewarding. And I don't ever need to do it again because now I know I'm definitely not an alcoholic. I'm not. You know?
I do think that, like you're saying, if you do something for a charity, it's that accountability as well. It's not just a thing that you can chuck in people's faces being like, I have to do this because I'm doing it for this. But it's accountability. And it's like when I did my 100 swims last year, it's the same thing. If I had said to myself, I'm going to get up for 100 days and I'm going to jump in the sea every single day for 100 days, I'd have never done it.
And the thing is, we've already talked so much about how the little self-worth that we have. What, you're going to do yourself a favour every single day for 100 days? Oh, you fuck. But no, you'll do it for them.
You'll do it for 100%. A charity. So if you can make yourself accountable to something or someone other than yourself,
and that a cause that you care about,
then and you're more likely to stick by it.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. If you are finding this podcast helpful and you're in a position to do so, we are asking that you help us by signing up to our Patreon. In pledges starting at just £4 a month, it will give you access to our We Are ADHD AF community forum, in which we are both active members and we all support and learn from each other. You will also get access to behind-the-scenes content, exclusives, offers, blogs, vlogs, the works, everything in the kitchen sink. Your pledge will also mean that we will be able to continue to put out weekly episodes of ADHD as Females, the podcast.
Alternatively, if you would prefer just to make a donation, you can do so by visiting buymeacoffee.com/ADHD as females. We know that our words are helping people in 164 countries and counting.
We really appreciate your support in supporting us to continue supporting the ADHD community.
If you are ADHD AF and you want more ADHD AF, join the We Are ADHD AF community. www.patreon.com/ADHD as females.
So I can just have a couple of drinks and then stop. Wow, 64% of you said you can do that. Well done. Responsible drinkers amongst us. Well done. 23% said no, and 13% said, are you joking? I'm in the 13%.
Yeah, I again, like I said earlier, it depends on who I'm with, where I'm at. I can do it in the right settings. If I need to be sensible, if I need to, not turn into a dickhead and, make a scene. Not like a bad scene. I just mean be loud and brash. And if I need to behave myself, I can do it. But that's the majority of the time. If I am just going out for a couple of drinks with a friend, there's no way on this planet I am just going out for a couple of drinks with a friend.
And I don't see it that way. Like, I see alcohol as like, you're either drinking or you're not drinking. And okay, that's all or nothing ADHD mentality. I can totally realise that.
Yeah.
But like, having a drink, deciding that I'm going to go and drink alcohol is like a freedom. It's a night off. So I'm not then going to cap that freedom. I'm going to let that go wherever the hell it wants to go.
Why go home at 8 p.m. when you can stay out till 3?
Yes.
What? My brain doesn't see the logic in that. It's like, if I'm going out, I'm going out.
Out. So that draws us to a close of the polls, but we just wanted to add, a level of responsibility. Obviously, it is a triggering subject. And if you do feel that you are struggling with alcohol consumption, if it's affecting your life in a negative way or you're not able to stop, then please do reach out for help. You can go to the NHS. There are support lines like Drink Aware. And also, if this is a triggering subject because your life has been marred by alcoholism, say, of a partner or a parent or anything, there are other support networks like NACOA and also like Al-Anon, and there is support out there. So please do get the help that you need.
Definitely.
Yes. Okay, so we have got some, like, us stop talking about ourselves and hear some actual people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So this is a little snippet from alcoholchange.org.uk. Those with ADHD are more likely to drink heavily. They are likely to binge drink more often, and they are more sensitive to its effects. Alcohol sits terribly with some of the classic symptoms of ADHD, such as impulsivity and disrupted emotional functioning. Earlier alcohol use. So a study found, is from healthline.com. A study found that more severe childhood ADHD was associated with earlier alcohol use as well as frequent or heavy alcohol use. So I just want to say, what do you feel about that, like earlier alcohol use?
I started drinking when I was 14, 15, I think. And definitely once like that was available, and obviously there was friends doing it as well, it became exciting. You got carried away with it. And I definitely started binge drinking from an early age.
Yeah. I've got like a really awful story that I've just been like, do I tell it? When I was very, very young, very young, like 11, 12, I think I was at a barbecue at a friend's house, and they had made this like glass bowl of sangria.
Yeah.
And all the adults were going in, but it had everything in it. They were chucking the kitchen sink in there, it had vodka, it had everything in it.
Yeah.
And I remember just like walking past it. I can really clearly remember the moment. I remember thinking, because as I've explained before, my dad has had a problem with alcohol. He's been clean and sober most of my life. But I remember thinking, what is this about? Like, it's got to be something good to have caused us this much pain.
Yeah.
So I went for it. I ended up in hospital.
Oh, really?
Yeah, age 11. Wow. Shocking. But then I didn't drink again until I was about 14. And just where we lived and the age, the time that it was, and the height that I am, I don't know, we could get into clubs. So I went clubbing at 14 and I'd get served at the bar. We'd get served in offline. Nobody was IDing us. So I was out clubbing 2-3 nights a week from the age of 14.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because I come from a very small town in the countryside in the northeast of Scotland, and we didn't have nightclubs.
Yeah.
Like, the closest nightclubs were in Aberdeen, and it just wasn't something that was easily accessible to us. So our drinking at 14, 15 was getting someone to go into the shop for you and buy you a 6-pack of Bud for $5. That's what we used to get back in the day. And then we'd go down to the local park and hide in the bushes and drink our beers or whatever. I remember drinking Sunny Delight and vodka. And I remember the first time that me and my mate had got a bottle of vodka, and we'd sneaked out of our mum's house and we'd went round the back of the school in the holidays or whatever. And we couldn't process the fact that we needed to pour some of the juice out and then fill the vodka up. So we were just taking a neck of this juice, followed by a neck of the vodka, and just mixing it in our mouth. Like, what on earth? What on earth? But yeah, so we used to go around. There was one friend we used to go around to her house all the time, and it was every single weekend. And there was marquees. That's what we used to go to in the countryside. Marquees and barn dances. Sounds very
wow.
It sounds very country, and it sounds like a barn dance. What on earth? But it was basically a disco where it was a bunch of underage teens getting drunk, getting up to no good, getting involved in relationships and stuff. And it's what we did back in the day. It was our equivalent of nightclubs and stuff, but that's what we did. I remember necking a bottle of wine in my mum's kitchen before jumping on the bus to one of these things, because it's like, well, you can't go sober either. The pre-drinking was real for sure. And oh god,
it was a lot. But when I was 16, we moved right into the city centre, the metropolis of Norwich, the bright lights. It's not that exciting at all. But we went out. So there was a club that was basically like the youth club of our school, because our school was in the city centre. And so we moved into town and I just went out. I would literally, and this is mental if you think about it, I'm 16 years old and I'm leaving my house to go to a nightclub on my own.
Yeah.
Because I know there's going to be people in there, but think about it, that's mental. And it is like it is a different time. It is a different time because you have to have ID now. And we just didn't.
Yeah.
We just didn't.
That's it. And I think I learned quite young as well that I was a fun drunk.
Yeah.
And that because I was a fun drunk, people encouraged me.
Yeah.
And you don't need to encourage a person with ADHD. Give them an inch.
And you mean I'm good at something?
Yeah, exactly. It's just I'm the life and soul of the party, so I went with that.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what paved most of my early teens, early 20s is being life and soul. It's like, I don't know if you've seen the episode of Friends where they've got Fun Bobby.
No.
And there's an episode of Friends where there's this guy and they call him Fun Bobby. And Fun Bobby stops drinking. And it turns out that Fun Bobby is the most boring man in the world unless he's drinking.
Yeah.
And so I think Monaco goes out with him in Friends. And I felt a lot like that for a while, because I'm just I need to drink so I'm fun.
Yeah.
And so that encouraged me a lot, because I want people to like me. I want to please everyone.
Yeah.
So let's just get drunk, be life and soul, and entertain everyone. And, that's how I will make friends.
It's so funny because you're talking that I just had this flash of memory. I used to go to a lot of gigs. So Norwich is a university city.
Yeah.
And in that kind of indie amazing era, all of the bands who were touring would come to Norwich first on the way to London. So all the bands were there. It was, a good few years of just bands, good bands playing in Norwich. And I would get served, and I remember that I would stand there was the UEA and the waterfront. I would stand and I would get myself a pint of beer, and I would hold it in my hand. So awful when you think back to it, just so that I would have something to do with my hands, because I felt so awkward and everyone was looking at me. Well, okay, we're going to say ADHD could play a role in that, but actually that's just being a really young teenager.
Yeah.
That's how you feel as a teenager, is you're awkward. You don't know where to stand. You don't know what to do with yourself. You feel like everyone's looking at you. You hang your head down. And there I am just like necking pints so that I have something to do. Like that's what I mean. It's so strange to look back on, was like quite how young I was. And I feel like the same person almost, because I never really grew up. But then when you actually see somebody that age, you know, who is 13, 14, 15, you go, Jesus Christ, that's a child.
Yeah.
I was drinking, a lot as a child. It's mental. But stereotypical, symptomatic of ADHD, apparently. So according to a study, people with ADHD are also more likely to engage in binge drinking in early adulthood.
Story of my life.
Mm-hmm. A study found that participants with ADHD were more likely to show signs of alcohol impairment, even when asked to complete tasks that typically decrease impairment. So yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Alcohol impairment could aggravate symptoms of ADHD, such as impulsiveness and difficulty focusing. In addition, long-term alcohol use is associated with difficulties with cognition, decision-making, memory, and speech. These effects could worsen symptoms of ADHD.
When I'm hungover, focusing is just
impossible.
It's impossible. I know, like working in the restaurant, I've gone in quite a few times hungover. It doesn't help that I predominantly work on a Sunday, but I've had my boss tell me I need you to focus today, and I'm like, well, you're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, not today.
Especially with a hangover. But yeah, I really struggle when I'm hungover.
Yeah,
focus is just gone for me.
And I think like with like my defining ADHD issues being so emotional and being like so down on myself, like that's the issue. And I was never really sure. I think before knowing about the ADHD, I thought that it was just this guilt because alcohol is such a bad thing in my family, that's why I felt so guilty and bad about myself afterwards, was because I was carrying that.
Yeah.
But actually I can now also realise that it's emotional dysregulation on steroids, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
Literally pouring fuel on the fire, like it's the worst.
Any of the feelings that you have that are, you know, in any which way bad
about yourself
are just magnified.
Yeah, times a million.
Yeah.
So, a review reported that childhood ADHD is a significant risk factor in the development of alcohol use disorder. Bloody hell. The relationship between alcohol use, depression, and ADHD is complex. While none of these three conditions directly cause each other, they are related. People with ADHD are more likely to both use alcohol and experience depression. In addition, alcohol use is associated with depression.
So it's not a good combination.
It's like every which way.
Yeah.
It just goes round and round. According to a study, people with ADHD might be at an increased risk of simultaneous depression and heavy drinking. Some people might drink to relieve symptoms of ADHD or depressions. Others might drink too much and end up experiencing more severe ADHD symptoms. They may end up feeling depressed as a result. Round and round and round we go.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ. In both cases, alcohol disrupts brain chemistry. It can increase your risk of depression and make your ADHD symptoms worse. It's such a funny thing, isn't it? So I've got a friend, and I remember saying to him, you know, life's too short, like you've got to enjoy it, like, you know, live life, blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, yeah, but the life's too short analogy is bullshit because you feel like shit most of the time, Laura. Life's too short to spend your life feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, that's the point. So, is ADHD linked with addiction? Yes, this connection may be because ADHD and addiction share similar symptoms, including anxiousness, challenges with managing emotions, impulsivity, reward seeking. These factors increase the chance of people with ADHD developing addictive behaviours.
Yeah.
If you have a diagnosis of both ADHD and alcohol use disorder, this is known as a co-occurring disorder or dual diagnosis. It's important to address both your addiction and your symptoms of ADHD. So it's funny because that's what we were talking about with
Yeah.
Alex, right? And that was the beef, was like, if you are doing something as a compulsion, as an addiction, be it drinking, gambling, sex, whatever it is, and you want to stop and you can't stop, then the argument is potentially it could be a comorbidity of ADHD rather than what we would know, what I had always assumed my whole life as in addiction as a disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think when you deal with the ADHD and the other problems that are prevalent.
Yeah,
that word. Then you might not have that dependency on alcohol or whatever your addiction is.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with the root cause instead of the comorbidity.
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about as a whole, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I think we've covered it all.
I think we have. I might go and have a drink now.
Press sexy.
I'm joking. Got to make light of these things, right?
You have, absolutely.
But yeah, if you're struggling in any way, shape or form, reach out. There's help out there for you.
And you're not alone.
Yeah.
It's very common.
It is very common. And instead of drinking alcohol, you can drink coffee.
That was really good. That
really
was good.
tedious link.
And if you like buying other people coffee...
I'm such a dick.
In all seriousness, we are so grateful to everyone who has bought us coffees, in inverted commas, the buyusacoffee.com.
Yeah.
Buymeacoffee.com.
Buymeacoffee.com/ADHD as females.
It's really got nothing to do with coffee. It is just a way to give us some support for the podcast. If it's resonating with you, if you're taking a lot away from it, then we would love your support because we do have some outgoings and we do put a lot of time into it. And you just buy us a coffee or buy us 20 coffees if you like. And that is just a donation. So we get a little bit of money for the work we put in.
Helps keep us going. And it means that we can all obviously get some merch and do some competitions and stuff and give a little something back as well. So
yes.
We appreciate all the support. And as always, if you want to send us a message, if you want to get in touch, you can do so through all the social media links that are available. And you can email us on ADHDasfemales@gmail.com.
So, Dawn, tell me though, what is the most ADHD thing you've done this week?
Oh, crap. Forget about the most ADHD thing that we've done this week. We've missed that part out, haven't we?
Missed a segment, that's all right.
Oh.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah,
there it is.
That'll be it.
Yeah.
We missed an entire segment of our show. Yeah. Oh, God. I've done loads of ADHD things this week. I'm premenstrual and I've just, Here's it. I remember now. So I went to work yesterday and obviously running late for work as normal. So jump in the car, driving to work, and then on my way to work I realised, it's Saturday. I don't normally work a Saturday. Usually I'd park up the side lane, which you can park free on a Sunday. But because I'm working on a Saturday, starting at lunchtime, I was like, I can't park here. So on my drive to work, I had to make a decision. And usual ADHD Dawn, impulsive, would have just been like, I'll park the car and deal with the consequences later. I.e., if I get a ticket, I'll get a ticket and I'll deal with it. So I had to, I don't know if this is the most ADHD thing that I've done. I guess all of it kind of combined is. But I had to then make an impulsive decision on that drive to what am I going to do? So either be late to work and park my car in a place that I'm not going to get a ticket, or risk it.
And every which way, it's ADHD AF.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't matter what I do. There was going to be consequences as a result of not leaving my house in time.
Yeah.
And so sensibly, for once in my life, I decided to take the option of parking my car a little bit further. It meant I was 5 minutes late for work because I had to obviously walk from where my car was parked to my work. But thankfully they were understanding, and I was just honest with them and told them it would either risk it for 30 quid fine, which kind of defeats the purpose of me going to work.
Exactly.
So I took the sensible option for once. Yes.
Well done.
What about you, Laura?
Mine's quite funny, really. I'm going to share this. I was like in two minds about whether I would or not, but it is quite funny, so I'm just going to share it. So basically, because I have as I've said many times, spent the last couple of years feeling really, really depressed and just not very good and just not knowing what to do with myself. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I can do things. I can do all the things because I'm not a terrible person and I just had a problem and I'm working with it. It's great. And I saw that TEDx was coming to Aberdeen.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck it. I'll give a TEDx talk. The balls on me is quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I have a lot to say. And I actually really do like public speaking. It is a thing.
Yeah.
Big always teases me for it. It's the thing. I actually can just give a speech and do
Gives
it.
me the fear.
I don't have the fear about it at all. So I applied and I worked really hard on it. And then I waited for however long it's been, like a couple of months waiting. And I just was so absolutely convinced that I had to get it. And not that I was going to get it because I deserved to get it and I was the best, but like, I don't know, just this weird something to prove thing. Like I have to get, this has to happen now. And this, you know, just all these ideas that if I can get people to listen to me, then more people are going to listen to the podcast. And then we can't lose momentum and we can't just like fall by the wayside, because if we don't push as hard as we can possibly push now, then it's just going to peter out like everything else in my life always have. So I have to get this done and I'm going to make it happen. And the guy called me up on the way back from Glastonbury on the motorway. It literally was like, called me up and he was like, so cheerful. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for your application. We were so impressed with you. Like all of these things. I'm like, they're thinking, oh my God, I've got it. And he goes, I'm afraid it's not good news today. And I literally was like the most devastated I've possibly ever been in my life. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's fine, don't worry. And he was like, no, but I really need to tell you that you made the top 20.
Which is huge, by the way.
And we want you to come back next year and reapply. It was just that what you're talking about doesn't fit the theme. Really, it doesn't at all. The theme is movement. I managed to pull so much nonsense out of my arse to try and talk about ADHD with the theme of movement. It was ridiculous. It didn't even make sense. I know that. But I was so convinced I had to get it. And so, yeah, I was so devastated. I bawled my eyes out and Big was just like sitting there like, oh my God, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like TEDx has just called you back. They didn't even have to call you. They've just told you that you've made the top 20 out of however many people. Like, that's a real positive. Like
exactly.
They're gonna call you back, and it has been like from that point has just been, well, it's RSD. I did get rejected.
Yeah.
Never mind rejection sensitive dysphoria. I got rejected, and I basically felt like the most worthless piece of shit ever since.
I know. Bless you.
So bad, isn't it? Like, what a ridiculous thing. Like, who do I think I am anyway? Welcome to my TED Talk. Shut up, Laura. What are you on about?
Like I said to you before, like what you have to try and take from that is the positives, and the fact that you got to the top 20.
Yeah.
The fact that they've told you to reapply next year. I'm like, what is for you will not go by you.
Oh God, 100%.
And I fully believe that you're capable of doing this, and you will get there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe there's just other things that you need to concentrate on at the moment.
And the thing is, it's more that the reason why it's the most ADHD thing ever is that I can really recognise in myself how badly I treat myself if I'm not really looking after myself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what's been really, really difficult this week is just like, I've really just not been in a good place, and I've felt like I'm not worthy of anything and I don't deserve to have gone on holiday, or like Big's going to leave me, or all of this really, really crazy stuff. And really it's all just because I have been drinking. Yeah. And I've been at a festival and I've been out of my routine. I've not been exercising. I've not been working. I've not had my bloody, my watch on, telling me how many steps I've done a day, all of these things that I need. And I think and then on top of it, to be able to recognize that and then just go, well, that's quite a lot that I have to push that bloody hard all the time, achieve all the time, tick a million things off a list, walk a million bloody steps a day to just feel like a decent human being. Yeah. And that makes me sad too.
I get that.
That's bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dry your eyes, mate.
But I think it's important, because we say this at the end of every episode as well, is compassion. Yeah. To self.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Practice what you preach.
You have to, yeah. Self-compassion is so important. And if you can't be kind to yourself, then how are you going to, you know...
How the hell are you going to love somebody else?
It's so true, though. You have to look after yourself before you can look after anyone.
Instead of being like, oh my God, I've not got this done or I've not got that done, it's the reframing it and just going like, but you have done this, but you have done
Look
that.
what
and
you
aren't
have
you doing
achieved,
well?
yeah.
You know, like this time last year, I was in bits, you know, and this time this year, I just applied for a bloody TEDx talk. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
you've
get
done
it,
a
but like,
podcast. We
what?
nearly have 10,000 downloads.
So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
We are so close to 10K now.
Yeah,
So thank you so much.
yeah, we really
We
appreciate it.
really appreciate it.
And we probably should stop talking because I think we're teetering on an hour now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And most of it's been me talking about how much of a twat I am, so sorry.
not at all. And we've not really touched on our differences as such this week, but I think we kind of have in a way
Yeah.
with the way that alcohol affects us differently.
Every single
So,
poll, yeah.
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 So we have. So that's our differences today.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please do hop on to buymeacoffee.com/ADHDers females and also hit those stars or share us in a Facebook group or anything just to help us get the message out there.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Rate, subscribe, whether it's on Apple, Audible, Spotify,
Amazon.
wherever you can find us, wherever you listen to us. If there's an option to give us a little bit of a rating, we'd really appreciate that.
Yes.
Leave a review, anything you can, and it helps us massively get the word out there and spread the awareness that is needed for ADHD.
Much needed. All right.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
ADHD as